Welcome to Adobe Photoshop. We're going to take the next 10 minutes to create and brainstorm some of these stylescapes, inspiration boards, just a way to help our client pick out a style. So I wanted to walk through this technically how I did it in Adobe Photoshop. So I like to do these in Adobe Photoshop, but you can use any photo editing program. You can even do these in Adobe Illustrator, but I just prefer Adobe Photoshop because it's easy to modify, crop, and isolate images. What size do I make these? Well, as you can see, a lot of stylescapes comes from the word landscape, which means kind of a horizontal presentation, which can be nice if you were ever to print it out on a foam board and bring it to a client to show off. And it could be even nice if they have a tablet, if they're viewing it on a tablet or they're viewing it on a desktop, because all of those screens are mostly kind of a horizontal orientation. But I've seen a lot of great style presentations done vertically. You see a lot of mood board, inspiration boards done vertically as well. So don't feel like you have to do it horizontal. You can do it in any way as long as it's easy for the client to see the style at first glance. They don't have to scroll a whole lot to see it all. They can kind of get a good idea of the style and quickly make a determination on whether they like it or not. So let's get started by opening up a new document. And I have one right here. It's 4,000 pixels in width by 1,200 in height. That seems to be kind of a nice ratio. Gives you enough space horizontally to put stuff, but it's also not so long horizontally that they're going to have to sit there and scroll to really see the entire style. So I'm just going to do 4,000 by 1,200. I like to keep it a nice high resolution. You never know if you might need to print these and bring it to a client presentation, or if it's just going to be a digital presentation. Always nice to do higher resolution. So here we are, and we have a blank canvas, and I think a lot of people freeze and they get a little bit of a panic attack because they don't know where to start and how to start. What do I start with? I feel like I can't come up with a style if I have nothing to go on but just some data that we've gathered so far. So the client in the client brief said they had two different styles that they were still trying to figure out. One was this really pop, bright POW. They said they even used the comment, I want it to feel like a POW when they see it. So I'm thinking bright, vivid colors, more fun, soft typography, maybe even illustrations. I'm not sure. We're going to see how that looks. And they also wanted to see a reserved one with maybe a seal graphic, just reserved colors. They even mentioned the color black. So it'll be easy to determine between the two styles because the client's already kind of given us a little bit of a direction. So let's get our artboard tool. And let's create two artboards. We're going to go here and click on New. We're going to be able to pop a second one right on there. So we have our two artboards. Let's start off with a fun, bright pop of color. So when we get started with these, the way to fight that panic of I don't know where to start is to start out with your user persona. You might already have an image of her, or you can find a like image. Doesn't have to be exactly her. Find a similar image, similar age demographic, and possible title. So let's go ahead and get our user persona out. Let's find someone very similar to be our star. So I'm on Pexels and I'm going to type in professional woman. We're going to scroll through and we're going to try to find someone who matches our user persona. So this is going to be a bright, fun one. So I want to see if I can't find somebody with a smile. Someone has a nice smile, very inviting and very warm. So I think I found the perfect one. She kind of has some clothes that are more casual, but yes, she's professional. She has a smile to her. She seems about the right age, kind of in her 30s. So just trying to match that as best as I can. So I'm going to bring her in. I'm just going to copy and paste her right into, let's go ahead and put them in the top artboard. Let's right click. Let's go ahead and make this a smart object so we can make her smaller and larger and not worry about pixelation. And I'm going to press enter and I'm going to quickly select her. I'm going to do the cheat in the newest versions of Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to do select subject so I can quickly mask her. I'm going to go down and mask her really quickly down here, add a layering mask, and just like that she has her background removed. I love that option in the newer versions of Illustrator. It's worth the upgrade if you guys have an older version. of Photoshop and don't have that. So she's going to be the star. I like to do it in the center and everything kind of fan out around her. So the typography and some of the other photo choices around her, but that's not always the case. I've seen people do stylescapes and they start off with the user persona like they're reading from left to right, and they kind of tell a story as they move over to the right. So there's no wrong way to build these, but I'm going to go ahead and start off with her. Let me make her a little bit bigger, just like that. I don't want to make her so small that you kind of lose her in the background. So let's go ahead and put a nice bright vivid background on her. I'm just going to get the rectangle tool and I'm just going to put a pop of color here. Let's do a nice bright vivid orange. I'm going to put this in the background, and with this bright fun version I also want to maybe add a little angle. And don't spend a lot of time doing your own style here, or spending time on design, because it's really just giving them an idea of a style direction. It's not at all making any recommendations for what it's going to look like, just kind of a general idea. So now that we have our hero image, I like to start with typography. What typography choices are we thinking is going to work? So there is a couple we can just go through, maybe some current type choices that we have in our software. Or if we want to explore different type styles, we can go to Google Fonts and kind of get an idea of style. So I'm thinking fun. When it comes to typography choices, I don't want a lot of sharp, pointy right angles. I want to have some soft, rounded, fun angles, but I also want to have it be chunky, easy to read. So a very chunky typeface. So we can go up here to font properties, and we can go ahead and increase this thickness and see what some of the thicker type choices are, and kind of scroll through. So there's a couple of sans serifs. There's Knit. Knit looks really good. So that can be something I can easily download. So I can download that font family. And you can even type in a headline to kind of help you see, well, what does the name look like? What does the company name look like in this typography choice? A lot of people show their font choice and they show the entire alphabet and how each letter is shown. And that is okay when you're doing branding guidelines and you're doing kind of some more final stuff. But for this, we're just going to kind of keep it some nice, simple typography, maybe a little headline. In this case, I'm talking about the style, the bright, vivid one. Number one style is all about that pop of color and vibrant color. So I feel like the client's going to connect more with that than they are seeing every letter of the typeface. That doesn't really connect with them. They're not graphic designers. So you're designing this for non-designers. So keep that in mind. So I'm trying to continue to just find bright color palette. Doesn't have to be perfect. So another thing I can do is bring in some logo designs that from other designers that I thought would have the style that I want to go for. So I'm going to go on Behance, and I'm just going to type. I'm going to start really broad and just type in logo design. And we can get more specific about what kind of logo design after we start to see some examples. So I really like these bright colors. Let's check this one out. Oh, the colors are fantastic, but not all the typefaces are things that I think would resonate like that. Not at all. That's too traditional. So there might be just one logo design out of this whole bunch that I think might match. And that's okay, because we could just take a quick screenshot. And what I'm going to do when I take a screenshot, I'm also going to go up and make sure I copy and save who the artist is. Sometimes I like to get the link, and I can go up here and I can have a whole series of different links to everything I'm using, so that if I need to put a little credit, I can put a credit to the artist, because you never want to take a logo and assume that it's yours. You always want to make sure you give proper credit to people, especially if this is going to be made public. But once again, I prefer this to be just between you and the client. So I collected a few logos. Let's go ahead and see what else we find. This one has kind of a lot of fun kind of shapes and angles to it. It's got this monoline look to it. Monoline meaning single thickness. So it's got the same thickness throughout, just feels very uniform. But it's got a lowercase presentation, which is softer and more approachable, which will kind of go with our bright and fun look. So I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of this. And I usually like to cluster the logo designs together so they can kind of see all of those together to get an idea on style. So I'm just doing that right now. But it's also nice to see it on something very practical, or a mock-up or a product. So restaurants what would be something that they needed for the restaurant or every restaurant needs and would like to kind of see what a style looks like. A menu. So I'm going to specifically look for a menu that would be in this bright, fun style. And I did this a little bit last night, and I had a really hard time finding a menu that really matched our particular style. I found things that kind of were bright and fun, but they had this kind of illustration on it, and I didn't want to go into the illustrations with this particular brand. So I had a hard time finding the right one, but after about 10 minutes, I even typed in yellow because I wanted to kind of get something that had yellow in it and was bright. And so this is when you can start to be very specific about what you're looking for. And I liked kind of the simplicity of it, but it had that nice pop of yellow. It took me about 10 minutes to finally find the right style that I thought would match everything. But sometimes some things are easier to find than others. The logos I found really quickly. I also ran across this typography option that I thought was also fun. It is a little bit different than kind of what we have here, but it's good to kind of introduce that because you're trying to get feedback from the client. They may go, I love the hand lettering, we want to have that. So it's nice to kind of throw something that's in the same category. It's bright, it's fun, but maybe a little different style that you think could work. And so just kind of presenting all these in this fashion. I think also adding a little more bright color. Let me get a background here. Of course, we can modify these colors at any time. It's very easy to do. Let's see if we can't find a little inspiration from her shirt. We can even help her pop out so she doesn't look like she's lying. She's just standing up against nothing. We could do some little small effects. Once again, don't spend a whole lot of time, but this doesn't take too long. I'm just going to do some shadows, just creating a layer underneath her. And I'm just going to paint with a brush tool, soft round brush. And I'm just going to paint on a little bit of shadows so it looks like she's standing up against that background. And I'm going to reduce the opacity quite a bit, so it's just like a little shadow. So that's kind of before, after, just kind of adding a little bit of realism and pop here. Let's add pictures of sushi, the kind of photography we feel like we want to use with this style. So it's going to be bright and fun sushi photography. So let's go to Pexels and let's look at sushi and try to find one that I think is very vibrant. See, these are kind of washed out looking. So I'm looking for lots of color, maybe a pop of the red or the orange. So that one looks really, really cool. So that's got a lot of color to it, a lot of vibrancy. So I'm going to bring that one in. And remember, we need to use photos that's going to resonate with our target audience and with kind of how the client wants to be portrayed. So they make sure you don't get the volcano rolls or the Americanized sushi. Get very simple sushi because that's what the client is asking for. So when you do a Stylescape, getting the type of sushi they're going to make or the more traditional simple sushi like this would probably be a more desirable photo to use than something like that. So I am just bringing this photo in. This is really just to set the mood for your style board. So I want to do one or two more things here. I feel like something's missing. I want to get to know this person a little bit more. She's probably mid-30s, and this is kind of it's almost feeling like more of a retro pop, early 90s almost kind of vibe. What if we were to bring in something fun from that era that is just trying to add a little personality? So I thought, what if I did a cassette tape? And this one's kind of fun. So I'm going to download that. See the bright colors that are used even on this and even on the cassette tape. Just thinking out loud. So here's our cassette tape. Let's bring this in. This will be very easy to isolate. It's already a smart object, so I can make it smaller and do our little cheat. And do select subject. That'll select it super quickly. And let's just do a layering mask. I'm going to bring this down to the layering system. I want it to be covered up by the logo, maybe just like that. Maybe there's a second one kind of floating around. Let's make her a little bit bigger. I want people to really get to know her. She is our hero of the day. So making her a little bit bigger and just doing some small tweaks to kind of finalize the presentation. And there's an opportunity to bring in maybe another logo over here or some kind of different type style with Sushi Club, just kind of seeing what we could do in this little extra space. So that's style one. and spend about 10 to 30 minutes on each style, and so maybe an hour total with 2 or 3 different styles. So let's tackle the other one. It's going to be way more traditional and reserved, so we're going to call it the reserved one.